Could your Houston Texans bring the hometown kid back to H-Town? We'll be talking about it today. The Twitter streets are clamoring about a possible trade for Mike Evans. I mean, you know, it all started with Tank Dell changing his number from 13 to 3. Hey, maybe 13 is a slot that's open for this guy right here. Mike Evans. We'll get into it all today on today's show. But first, I want to hear from you off the top. Is there even a chance the Texans trade for Mike Evans? Am I just, talking into the void? Am I just, saying something that's not even going to have the slightest chance of happening? What do you think? Give me a Y for yes or an in for no down in the comment section. Is there even a chance? You're saying there's a chance. Is there even a chance the Texans trade for Mike Evans? Let me know down in the comment section as we get this video started. First off, why a trade could happen. I'm going to give you reasons why it can happen and why it can't happen. First of all, the real ones know it's a homecoming. The real ones know this logo right here. G-Ball! Shout out to all my BOIs out there from Galveston. Hey, he's from G-Town. He got the key to the city, the hometown kid. He's a huge proponent for Galveston, which for those not in Houston, not in Texas, don't know, just south of Houston on the Gulf of Mexico right there. But could he be wanting to come home to his hometown state, to, I'm guessing his hometown city, Galveston, just south of Houston? Could he want to come home? Possibly. I think that's one of the reasons that might make the Texans an enticing option for Mike Evans. Number two, he's an elite veteran wide receiver. And the Texans, they don't have that. They have a veteran wide receiver in Robert Woods, but I wouldn't say that he's elite. But adding Mike Evans gives you a legitimate number one receiving threat who's done it before. Look at his last 4 seasons in the NFL. Not a single season under 1,000 yards. We have 13 touchdowns and 14 touchdowns in 2020 and 2021, respectively. Last season, averaged 14.6 yards per reception. So, these numbers are astronomical. Hall of Fame type numbers from Mike Evans throughout his career. And you add him to this Texans wide receiver depth chart that, Nico Collins, unproven. Robert Woods on the tail end of his career and has never been an elite wide receiver. Noah Brown is kind of an unproven guy, an older, unproven guy from the Cowboys. And then you have the rookies, Tank Dell, John Mechie, who's basically a rookie this season, and Xavier Hutchinson. I think that he could add something that this, Texans depth chart, this Texans wide receiver room doesn't have right now, which is an elite, legit number one option. And the third reason why I think the Texans could trade for Mike Evans, the Texans could contend with this move. They could have a really good offense. They already have Dameon Pierce, who I think is going to be a great running back this season for the Texans. But then you add a legit receiving threat along with, Tank Dell, who could surprise people his rookie season. Nico Collins, a budding star in Houston. Everybody this offseason has been clamoring Nico Collins. Could he be next up? Adding a guy like Mike Evans could propel this offense to where they could compete for a playoff spot this season. Those are my 3 reasons why. And like I said, the Texans could compete with this move. And you could bet on them competing at our sportsbook sponsor, BetUS. If you go down and use chatsports.com/bet, promo code chat125, they're going to give you a 125% deposit bonus, which means you put in $100, they're going to give you $125 to bet with for free. And you can lay that dough down on your Texans plus 850 to win the AFC South this year. Now, call me crazy. If anything happens with Trevor Lawrence or the Jacksonville Jaguars, if anything happens with them, this is an open season. This is an open race because I really don't think there's much to separate the teams between the Titans, Colts, and Texans. I think all 3 of those teams are in this kind of weird area where they could be really, really bad or they could be decent this season. So why not lay some dough down on your Texans? If you bet or if you risk $10 on the Texans to win the AFC South, you could win $85 right now if you go and bet with our sportsbook sponsor, BetUS. Once again, chatsports.com/bet, promo code chat125. So now here's where all the negative Nancy's get to come in the comments and kind of back me up and like, no way it happens. No way a trade happens for Mike Evans. You're crazy. Well, these are the reasons why those people think I'm crazy. Number one, you give up draft capital, and for a young team still trying to build, still trying to fill holes, you need draft capital. And you would have to give up at least a mid-round pick for Mike Evans. This is the trade I cooked up for a possible Texans Buccaneers trade. The Texans get Mike Evans, and then the Buccaneers would get Xavier Hutchinson, our rookie wide receiver, and then a 2024 third-round pick. I think this is a somewhat fair deal. The Buccaneers are trying to get younger. You get a young, decent wide receiver in Xavier Hutchinson, who's similar mold to Mike Evans. You know, a tall, lanky guy who can go up and get it. And then you get a 2024 third-round pick, which could be a good pick for the Buccaneers. But what do you think? If this was on the table, if you were playing Madden and you got sent this trade, what would you do? Type A for accept, type D for decline. What would you do if this trade was on the table? Would you accept this trade? Let me know down in the comment section. And I'll tell you this right now. If a trade does happen, you bet your bottom dollar we're going here and breaking it all down on Texans Today. Go down and subscribe to the fastest growing Texans channel on YouTube. Go to youtube.com/TexansTV or go down and hit the sub button right now and join our Texans Army. We have the best Texans content on YouTube. I'm breaking down the latest news, the latest rumors 24/7, so don't miss out. Go down and subscribe. Number two, on why an Evans trade doesn't make sense. It stunts the growth of young talent, being one, Nico Collins. Like I said earlier, a lot of people are expecting a lot of things from Nico Collins this season. And not that trading for Mike Evans is going to totally negate what Nico Collins can do this year, but I think him not being the wide receiver one this season could stunt his growth a little bit because a lot of people believe he can be the wide receiver one for this team. So if you take that away from him, if you take targets away, if you take playing time away from Nico Collins, I think that could stunt his growth just a little bit because a lot of people think that he can be the next up. And bringing in a guy like Mike Evans, he's going to easily be the number one target. So I think that could affect somewhat of the growth of Nico Collins. And number three, on why Evans trade wouldn't make sense, he's an older wide receiver who wants a contract. He wants some money, and I kind of think back to Julio Jones a couple of years ago. That's what this reminds me of an older wide receiver, wants a new contract, wants out of it, but Julio Jones didn't really do well once he left Atlanta. So could that be a same situation with Mike Evans? This coming in from Mike Garafolo just a couple of days ago. Deadline set. Buccaneers wide receiver Mike Evans' agent says in a statement that he will cut off contract negotiations if the sides don't reach a deal by next Saturday, one day before Tampa's season kicks off. Year 10 could be Evans' last as a Buck. More on Good Morning Football now. But, there you have it. And if the Bucs, if they know that he's not going to be on their team next year, that incentivizes the trade a ton, especially if the Bucs are not competing for a playoff spot this season. In conclusion, though, I don't think the Texans trading for Mike Evans will happen. I give it just a 5% chance of it happening, actually. There is that slight little bit of me that's like, there could be somewhat of a connection. He is from the Houston area. The Texans could use a legit receiving weapon, a true wide receiver one in that wide receiver room. But at the end of the day, I just don't think Nick Caserio pulls the trigger on this move. He wants his draft capital, and I don't know if he's willing to give up that for Mike Evans right now. But make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you follow along. We got videos all week for you leading up to the season opener against the Baltimore Ravens. So stay tuned and make sure you hit that sub button.